Alright, and I'm back. So, the list of the 2022 Academy Award nominees was released a couple days ago, and honestly, who really gives a fuck? Like, seriously, does anybody care about the Oscars? Well, I figured we could have a little fun with it, and let's explore. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So, like I said, it's weird how the Oscars have kind of become irrelevant. It's really strange, because they used to be very important. Now it's like, I don't care. I don't really care about it, because most of the most of the movies that I like aren't even there. They aren't even nominated, and the ones that actually do get nominated that I think are good don't win. So they've lost, let's say, prestige and respect over the years. I'm talking about, again, the Academy Awards. But, you know, I don't remember if I did this last year or the year before. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to watch all the movies, and then I'm going to break down which ones I actually liked. So I'm gonna give an objective opinion as to which movie I thought should have won something. And I might have done that 2 years in a row. And both years, I just got really pissed, because the movies that I thought were objectively the best in certain things just didn't win anything. So, figure I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to watch all the movies, just the ones that are nominated for Best Picture. I'm going to watch all of them, and I'm going to break down which ones I think were the best. Just, you know, I'm going to try to be objective with it and pick my favorite. Now, I know that sometimes you don't get it right, but usually I think I'm better at this than they are. Anyway. So, this year, the movie that got the most nominations was The Power of the Dog, with 12 nominations, and I'll break down every movie. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through every single, there's 10 Best Picture nominees, and I'm going to go through all of them. Basically, I'm going to tell you what the movie is and the synopsis from IMDb. And maybe if I've heard it or if I've seen a little bit of it, I'll let you know. But yeah, that one was the biggest one, with 12 nominations. Following that, it's Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, with 10 nominations, and then the rest of the movies, I think that's like 7 tops. So the biggest thing here, and also I'll mention, you know, like Best Actor or whatever and stuff like that, because, you know, the fun stuff. But first, let's talk about the nominees for Best Picture. All right, Best Picture, you got 10. And first off, before I even do that, hey, Mob Nasty, thank you for joining me. Before I even do that, I need to mention this year's biggest snub. In my opinion, this year's biggest snub was The Last Duel. Now, for those of you who don't know what The Last Duel is, this is a Ridley Scott movie. For those of you who don't know who Ridley Scott is, Ridley Scott created a little movie called The Gladiator. He also made Alien. He also did a Blade Runner. So he's kind of a big deal. And so Ridley Scott directed this movie called The Last Duel. And I'll read you the premise right here, just so you know what the movie's about. King Charles VI declares that Knight John de Carouge settles his dispute with his squire by challenging him to a duel. Now, let me tell you something. That is a terrible description for the movie, because that's not what it's about. It's not what it's about at all. Basically, long story short, it's based on real events, and you get to see 3 versions of the same story. A woman claims that... Okay, so basically, this girl here claims that is the wife of Matt Damon, and she claims that Adam Driver raped her. And so you get to see this story in the 3 parts. You get to see the version of the girl, you get to see the version of Adam Driver, you get to see the version of Matt Damon, and it all ends up in, I think, the last duel to the death that France ever had. The movie's phenomenal. Now, I disagree with the movie being made in 3 parts, you know, like telling the same story in three different versions of the same story. I get why they did it. I just don't particularly like it. I mean, this is Ridley Scott making Rashomon, right? And so I think it would have been better if he just said it in a linear way, but whatever. I mean, it's supposed to be ambiguous. It's supposed to be like, well, you believe whoever you want to believe, and since we can't really prove anything, we'll leave it up to God, and God will choose, you know, in this duel to the death, who actually is in the right here. It's a fantastic film. Really, really well made, extremely well acted. You hate almost everybody at different points in the movie, which is not an easy thing to do. So I highly recommend it, and I don't understand why it would snub. Not even like for costumes, like nothing. So I don't get it. Maybe it's because it was made way before, but it came out in 2021. So maybe it's like a weird, it didn't follow certain, it didn't meet certain requisites, but still, bullshit. It's a fantastic film. I highly recommend it. Anyway, here's the point. To me, the standard here is any movie that's nominated on this list, as I watch it, has to be better than The Last Duel. Because I think The Last Duel should be in there. If it's not, then that means that these movies are that they're just way better. So, that's my standard for this year. The 2022 Academy Awards. That's my standard. Every single movie needs to be better than The Last Duel. Otherwise, it should not have been on this list. It should not have been nominated. And so, let's break that down. So the first movie that I'm going to go through is, and I need to let me do a quick little setup here because I need to get rid of that. The first movie is called Belfast or Belfast. This is by director Kenneth Branagh. For those of you who don't know who Kenneth Branagh is, he does a bunch of artsy films, but he's also an actor. Recently, I think you could see him in Death in the Nile, if I'm not mistaken. But he's directed stuff like, I believe it's The Thin Red Line, Murder on the Orient Express. He does artsy films. It's his style is not exactly for everybody, but you know, he's done good work. He's done decent work. You know, like, oh yeah. So, like, for example, he did Artemis Fowl with everybody, which everybody hated, but he did Murder on the Orient Express, which people liked. He also directed the first Thor, and which one? No, it wasn't The Thin Red Line. Which one's the one I'm thinking about? Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, American director. The movie is called Belfast, and let me just read you the synopsis here. A young boy and his working-class Belfast family experience the tumultuous late 1960s. Now, for those of you who don't know, Belfast in the 1960s kind of was going through a civil war. It's the whole thing. You know how there's like two Irelands, like Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland? Well, it's kind of this movie's smack dab in the middle of it, and it shows you the family aspect of it. Now, the trailer looks pretty good. Like, it's an interesting situation, very interesting situation. I don't think there's enough movies made out of this particular conflict. I think it's a conflict that most people don't understand. Like me, for example. I'm very confused. But whatever. And so, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty interesting. It looks well acted. It's got Jamie Dornan in it. It's got, what's her name? The Academy Award winner. I always forget her name. Helen... I'll find it. Let me see. She's got to be... Okay, Judi Dench. Dame Judi Dench. I'm sorry. Ciarán Hinds. The movie looks really good. Is it better than The Last Duel? Who knows? But I'm going to stop asking that question. It's made in black and white, and the style is... let's say intimate, and it wants to look old. Like the movie wants to look old, which is weird because in the 60s, I believe we already had color. But there you go. Like I said, I'm gonna watch all these. This one I'm not dreading. I'm not dreading at all. Next, we have Coda. So Coda, for those of you, this is an Apple film, and for those of you who don't know what Coda means, Coda is the child of deaf adults. So there's the synopsis of the movie. As a coda, Ruby is the only hearing person in her deaf family. When the family's fishing business is threatened, Ruby finds herself torn between pursuing her love of music by wanting to go to Berklee College of Music and her fear of abandoning her parents. Now, the movie seems kind of like one of those weird feel-good movies. Like, oh yeah, look at this, blah, blah. It doesn't look as exciting, and the conflict doesn't really seem that interesting to me. It's like, oh, well, why don't you just go to college? Like, it's not that hard. You can leave. You can just leave. But whatever. I mean, we'll see. This one I'm not too excited about. Mainly because I've said this many times, deaf characters in film, it's difficult to make them interesting because when you have to just follow what they're saying through hands, it's really difficult for them to express emotion, and humans mostly detect emotion by their ears. You know, we hear a tune, we hear a note in people's voices, and that's what gets us the most. And I think that's the issue with deaf characters, since you don't hear, it's not triggering a particular sensor that humans have. So you know when you hear somebody's voice breaking and you're like, and it gets you because you're like, man, like, he's about to cry or something. But I don't know. Maybe it was really well made. Maybe it was really directed. Maybe it was really well directed. I'm just saying I'm skeptical because of that particular thing. Next, we have Don't Look Up. by Adam McKay. Now, Adam McKay directed Vice. He directed the Big Short. He's kind of like a comedic director and also like very political and stuff. Let me read you the synopsis here. Two low-level astronomers must go on a giant media tour to warn mankind of an approaching comet that will destroy planet Earth. Now, I've heard that this movie's fantastic, and I've heard that this movie's terrible. There's no in between. Either you love it or you fucking hate it. I'm not exactly sure what makes one person land on one side and one person land on the other, because it's the most random group. I haven't found really any patterns between who liked it and who didn't. So, all right, I guess I'll have to watch it, but just, you know, it's one of those movies it's going to be love or hate type of deal. We'll see where I land. Next, we have Drive My Car. This is actually a Japanese film. Here's the premise. After his wife's unexpected death, Yusuke Kafuku, a renowned stage actor and director, receives an offer to direct a production of Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima. There, he begins to face the haunting mysteries his wife left behind. Now, this movie I'm actually looking forward to because I've been to Hiroshima, and it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. It's fantastic. So it's for the nostalgia factor of being like, hey, I was there. You know, I've been there. I walked that street. It's pretty cool. So for that, I'm looking forward to it. Based off of the trailer, the movie looks like it's going to be very slow, but very intimate, very emotional in the Japanese way, which is not to express a lot of emotions. So could be fun, could be enjoyable. It's like I said, I'm actually looking forward to it. It's probably this one's probably the slowest out of all the movies in there, but I'm looking forward to it. Just again, why not? It'll just for the whole nostalgia factor for me personally there. And because based on the trailer, it looks like it could be one of those movies that actually, you know, leaves you thinking. It leaves you feeling stuff, and you're like, man, that is true. Love, losing stuff, intimacies, relationships. Could be fun. We'll see. Again, don't hate it. Don't hate the idea of watching it. Next, we have probably my favorite normal movie last year, Dune. So, Dune, I've talked about it to death, probably on this podcast. I could not have recommended it enough, but in case you don't know what the movie's about, I'll give you the synopsis right here. This is the feature adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and most valuable element in the galaxy, which is spice. Who the fuck makes these synopses? It's not really that great. Anyway, I highly recommend this movie. It's fantastically acted, beautiful. I recommended everybody watch it on the big screen because it's a completely different experience than watching it at home. This is a movie it was beautifully shot, and so you actually have to see it on the big screen to really appreciate it, or it makes the experience that much better. I also made a few recommendations. One, watch it with subtitles, because you'll need them, because they have a tendency to whisper. Second, make sure you have a big bottle of water, because you're in the desert most of the movie, and you get pretty thirsty watching the movie. So, there you go. Highly recommend this movie. Very enjoyable. Like I said, to me, as of right now, it's probably the best movie of last year. Normal movie. We're not putting Spider-Man in here, okay? So, normal movie, I give it to Dune. Next, we have King Richard, which is the Venus and Serena Williams biopic. I guess I can read you the synopsis here. This is Will Smith. A look at how tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams became who they are after coaching from their father, Richard Williams. Now, this movie it's actually interesting because it was kind of controversial before it came out. And it's controversial for the dumbest thing possible. So a lot of people were complaining about why is the Venus and Serena biopic named King Richard? Why isn't it named after Venus and Serena? And the answer is Venus and Serena produced the film, and they wanted to make it in honor of her father. It's not controversial at all. However, if you think about it for a second, I think naming it King Richard actually ended up hurting the film, because most people did not know this is a Venus and Serena biopic. Like, if you just see that, if you go to movie theater to see King Richard, you're like, probably Shakespeare or whatever. I don't feel like watching Shakespeare right now. Instead of being like, oh, that's the Venus and Serena biopic. Now, if you see the poster, I don't know how you wouldn't know what it's about, but whatever. And like I said, it could have ended up hurting it. But, it's their movie. They want to make it in honor of their dad. Good for them. This is another Will Smith movie where he's playing a person who's still alive. I think he played Ali when he was still alive. Then he played the guy from The Pursuit of Happiness when he was still alive. And so historically, his record is pretty good. And I would not be surprised. Again, I haven't seen the movie, but I would not be surprised that this is the movie that Will Smith finally wins his Oscar for. Just because, I mean, he was nominated, but just because he didn't win it for the other two. So I would not be shocked just because of that. Again, I haven't seen the movie, and his performance might be phenomenal. I think Will Smith's a really great dramatic actor, but we'll see. I need to see the movie. But yeah, just based off of that, it would not shock me, and I think he's probably going to win it just because of that. Next, we have Licorice Pizza. Now, this is a Paul Thomas Anderson film. Now, Paul Thomas Anderson, if you don't know who he is, he's not exactly an indie director because he's a big name, but he's kind of out there. He's an auteur. He made probably the most recognized film that he's had would be, I'm guessing it's going to be There Will Be Blood because, Daniel Day-Lewis won the Oscar for that, but you probably saw Magnolia, which is a fantastic film. Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler. He's made a lot of really great films. I personally really like his... Oh, Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights is probably his biggest movie out there. Anyway, point is, dude's a good director. This movie, however, not exactly convinced. So, the story of Alana Kane and Gary Valentine growing up, running around and going through treacherous navigation of first love in the San Fernando Valley in 1973. So... I mean, Sean Penn's in it, and you got a couple other kind of big names there, like whatever. But the issue here is that the two main characters are nobodies. Like, I think this might be their first gig, their first acting gig. So we'll see. I mean, it could be great. Like, I like Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm a fan of his work. We'll just, I'm not exactly convinced. I don't really like the synopsis. I'm not too excited about watching it, but it could be great. It could be great. I'm not holding my breath. Anyway, next, what do we have here? We have Nightmare Alley. This is the new Guillermo del Toro film. Now, for those of you who don't know who Guillermo del Toro is, he did the Hellboy movies, not the most recent one, the two before. He did Pan's Labyrinth, which I think is his best film. He won the Oscar for the Shape of Water, which I haven't seen, to be honest. And so he's kind of a big deal. Anyway, he also did Pacific Rim, which is also fantastic. Anyway, so this is his newest film, written, directed by him, stars Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Kate Mara. And here's the premise. An ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is. So, okay, the premise seems interesting enough. Like, it looks like it could be supernatural-ish, but also it could be just like a heist thing. Like, I'm playing, like I'm a snake oil salesman and stuff like that. So could be good, could not. Guillermo del Toro, he knows how to make good movies mostly. So we'll see how it goes. Not too excited. Honestly, I'm not too excited to see this one. It looks interesting enough. It never caught me. I think that's the issue. It never actually caught my attention. Like, oh, I gotta watch it. But we'll see. Next, we have The Power of the Dog. This is, again, the movie that got the most nominations of the year. 12 nominations total. Directed by Jane Campion. For those of you who don't know who that is, she directed the Piano, and she won an Academy Award for it. Let me give you the premise here. Charismatic rancher Phil Burbank inspires fear and awe in those around him. When his brother brings home a new wife and her son, Phil torments them until he finds himself exposed to the possibility of love. So, this movie also stars Kristen Dunst, and let me tell you something. It looks really good, basically because of Benedict Cumberbatch. Cumberbatch is almost unrecognizable in the trailer. I mean, you can see him, it looks like him, but I mean, we're used to seeing Benedict Cumberbatch with a particular accent, which is British, or, or as Doctor Strange. But here, holy shit. Like, honestly, I haven't seen the movie, but based on the trailer, it might be his best performance yet. It looks phenomenal. It looks really great. It looks interesting. We'll see how it goes. Like, this is another one. I like Westerns, generally. And so this is another one that I'm actually looking forward to watching. Finally, the last movie that we have On the the Academy Award nominees for 2022 of Best Picture, we have West Side Story. Now, West Side Story is directed by the one and only Steven Spielberg. If I have to tell you who that is, well, then you're probably a child, so let me tell you. Steven Spielberg made E.T., Jaws, Jurassic Park, kind of an iconic director. Anyway, here's the summary. An adaptation of the 1957 musical West Side Story explores forbidden love and the rivalry between the Jets and the Sharks, two teenage street gangs of different ethnic backgrounds. So this movie stars Ansel Elgort, Rachel Zegler. It's a musical. I don't know what you want me to tell you. It's rare for me to get excited for musicals. I like a few. I enjoy a few. Not all of them. Sometimes they're a bit too much. We'll see how it goes. So those are the nominees. Those are like I said, all the nominees for Best Picture. I'm gonna watch all of them. I've watched some of them, but overall, not particularly special. I'm gonna tell you, the Academy Awards kind of down on the quality, not impressive. I'm almost gonna say irrelevant, but maybe not. Anyway. So out of those, let me just mention a few more nominees in case you care. But actually, I'm looking forward. I'll tell you something I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to be able to rip these to shreds. Because right now I can't really say much because I haven't seen them. After I see them, I can objectively say like this was shit because of this. This was not worthy of being nominated. This definitely is not better than The Last Duel. But right now I can't. So it's nice to know what I have to see in order to rip it to shreds. And I enjoy ripping things to shreds. It's enjoyable. It's a fun hobby. Anyway, the Academy Awards will take place Sunday, March 27th, in case you cared. Let me continue here with Best Director. We got Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion for Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. Moving on to Best Actor, we have Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos. For those of you who don't know, that's the movie about basically I Love Lucy. That's the I Love Lucy movie. Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog. Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom. This one's actually on Netflix. I was going to watch it the other day. I just ended up watching Rise of the Shield here instead. But it looks good. Andrew Garfield is playing a real-life person. I believe it's the writer, creator of the play Rent. And Andrew Garfield in general, I think he's a great actor. He's probably the best actor of his generation, of his particular generation, which would be, I think he's in his 30s, 40s, so I think he's probably the best actor in that particular window. Or at least he's top 3. Next, we have Will Smith nominated for King Richard. I think he's going to win it just because they've nominated him too many times for similar stuff, like biopics, and he just doesn't win it. And finally, Denzel Washington for The Tragedy of Macbeth, which is like the black and white weird. I think it's on Amazon. I haven't seen it yet. Not really too interested on it. Next, best actress, we have Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. And this is kind of interesting. Notice the nominees for Best Picture for women. None of those movies were nominated for Best Picture. Not a single one. I don't know what the fuck that says about the movies or the actresses, but it's bizarre. Again, Eyes of Tammy Faye, The Lost Daughter, Parallel Mothers, Being the Ricardos, Spencer. Not a single one of those movies got a Best Picture nominee. I don't think, not even a Best Director nominee. So, what the fuck is that? Do all the actresses in supposedly the Best Picture movies suck? I mean, I read you the list. A few of those movies, the leads are women. So, like, particularly Coda. So, honestly, what does that tell you about those other movies? Does it tell you that the movies that they picked for Best Picture, all the female characters suck? Not a single leading lady in the movies that you nominated for Best Picture is worthy of the nominee. By the way, the chick from The Last Duel, whose name I forget, but she's fantastic, she deserved the nominee. She was phenomenal. The role was not an easy role, and she's lovable in the freaking movie. So, what does that tell you? Again, what does that tell you about the Oscars? Jesus Christ. Best Supporting Actor, we got Ciarán Hinds Troy Kotsur, Ciarán Hinds for Belfast. For those of you who don't know who Ciarán Hinds is, he played Caesar in Rome. Troy Kotsur for Coda. Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog. J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos. And Cody Smith McPhee for The Power of the Dog. Okay, so these are the best supporting actors. And only one of those was not a Best Picture nominee, which is Being the Ricardos. The other four, you got a guy from Belfast, from Coda, and two from The Power of the Dog. I'm pointing that out. Next, Best Supporting Actress. You got Jessie Buckley for The Lost Daughter, Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Judi Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog, and Aundrani Ellis for King Richard. All right, same situation here. For the Best Supporting Actresses, 4 of them are from Best Picture nominees. Only 1 isn't, for The Lost Daughter. So I don't know what the hell this tells you. Like, why aren't the leading ladies in the Best Picture movie, or why aren't movies with leading ladies being nominated for Best Picture? Like, what's going on here, Oscars? What you doing there? It sounds like somebody's kind of fucking up. Anyway, next we got the Best Original Screenplay: Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, The Worst Person in the World. I have no idea what that is. Best Adapted Screenplay, we got Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, The Power of the Dog. It should be Dune. It should be Dune. Dune was an extremely difficult thing to adapt, and they did it. I thought it was fantastic when they did it. Could be The Power of the Dog. Again, I need to see the movie first. But as for me, like off the top of my head, it was Dune. Anyway, next we got Best Animated Feature. We got 5 nominees. Got Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchell vs. the Machines, Ryan the Last Dragon. Have not seen any of them. So I can't really have an opinion. Let me see. Best International Feature: Drive My Car, Japan. Flea from Denmark. The Hand of God, Italy. Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, and The Worst Person in the World, Norway. Now, I mean, by process of elimination, it has to be Drive My Car from Japan, right? I named 5 movies, all right? Only one of those made it to the Best Picture nominee. So I'm assuming that was the best. That should be the best of that group. If only one movie out of all of them was worthy of a Best Picture nominee, then that movie should be the one that wins that prize, right? Like, it's not crazy. I'm not crazy here, right? That should be, mathematically speaking. Anyway, I'm done. That's all the stuff that I wanted to go through. You got editing, you got sound score, you got a whole bunch of stuff, but that's kind of where I want to stop. Because honestly, this isn't fun. The Oscars just give me a headache. Like, logically speaking, what the fuck are you doing? You know what's crazy? The Japanese movie's probably not going to win it. They're probably not going to win it, and it's probably going to be because of bullshit, but whatever. We all know what happens to the Oscars. After the Golden Globes, they're like, we can't give it to whatever won the Golden Globe, and so it ends up being a bullshit movie winning a bullshit thing when it's all bullshit. And also, you know, it's like, what, Robin Williams said it like over a decade ago. You're telling me the Oscars are political? No. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna watch all of them, and then I'll objectively be able to criticize them. I'm just definitely not looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a few, like Power of the Dog seemed interesting. Which other one? The Belfast one looked interesting. We'll see. As always, comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Super Dario World on YouTube and on Twitch streaming. I don't know my schedule yet. Like, just guess kind of like 6:30 p.m. because it's crazy. My schedule's just crazy right now. If you want to send me something privately, you can always do that on Instagram at Super Dario World and at Dario SDW. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.